good to have you back at Mr. Horror Global. Tonight's story comes from a friend of a friend. I'll call him Daniel, a college senior who landed his first real job and his first apartment, and something in that apartment had been waiting for someone exactly like him. Viewer discretion advised. The Red Room. You know that feeling when you finally land your first real job and the very next thing you have to do is go find a place of your own? It's supposed to be one of the good ones. Your first apartment, your first real taste of being an adult, nobody to answer to. This is a story that might make you think twice about all of that. It didn't happen to me. It happened to a friend of a friend, a man who reached out to me after he'd heard me tell stories like this one, and I'm going to call him Daniel. It was about 12 years ago, when he was in his mid-20s. Daniel was a college senior at the time. He'd done his military service, come back, and he wasn't exactly burning the midnight oil, but you know how it goes. Around your third year, the panic about the future starts rolling in. What am I going to do after I graduate? So he'd buckled down a little, chasing the certifications in his field, keeping his English sharp, trying to make himself into someone worth hiring. He was the friendly type, knew everybody, and he was close with one of the graduate assistants in his department. One day the assistant called him over for a smoke, and over the coffee and the cigarette he said, "You know that course the part-time lecturer teaches?" The lecturer asked the department to recommend somebody for a job, a real position, at a company. "You're stressed about work anyway. Let me put your name in." Daniel said, "Sure, why not?" And it kind of fizzled out and he forgot about it. Then a few days later, the assistant tracked him down again. "The professor wants to see you about the job. Get over there." So Daniel went, and the professor sat him down, told him the assistant spoke well of him, that he was a sharp kid, fourth year, looking to get a head start. The lecturer recommended this himself, so the position should be solid. Go give it everything. I'll process you out on a work placement so it doesn't hurt your graduation. Just like that, patting him on the back. And Daniel called the lecturer, who told him, "My senior runs a company. It's not huge, but it's a steady, well-run operation, and it's right in your field. They asked the school to send a student, and I put your name forward." And just like that, almost by accident, Daniel had a job he'd never really applied for. Now, why was he so eager for this? It wasn't ambition exactly. It was his father. His father was a very old-fashioned, heavy-handed man, the kind who ran the house like a fortress. Daniel just wanted out. He wanted to be an adult, work, live alone, breathe his own air. So when he went home, it was less asking permission and more delivering the news. "I did well enough that the school recommended me, so I'm taking a work placement, and I've got a job." His parents were stunned. His father sat there a long moment, and then, to Daniel's surprise, he softened. "Well, you've got to work eventually. Go do it right." And then that stern, immovable man spent about $2,000 on a used car for his son, and put another $5,000 into his account. Find yourself a place out there. Use this for whatever you need early on. I'd give you more, but there isn't any more. Daniel got choked up. He'd never seen that side of him. He promised he'd make it, that he'd take care of his old man someday, and then he packed the car and left. The new city was an hour and 40 minutes away, a real distance. He pulled up to the company, got introduced around, and was told the research lab needed someone in his field. They walked him over to meet the lab director, drove him about 3 minutes from the main factory building to a small single-story building set off on its own. That was the company's research lab. 8 people worked there, counting Daniel. The director, friendly enough, asked if he'd found a place to live yet. He hadn't. "Don't go wandering around with realtors by yourself," the director said. Greg, come here. You busy? This is our new researcher. Take him out. Help him find a place." So Greg, the connected one, the guy who knew every realtor in town, took Daniel out on the clock to go apartment hunting. And here's where every first-timer hits the same wall. The place you love costs more than your whole deposit, and the place you can afford looks like a dungeon. Daniel froze up, couldn't choose. Finally, Greg said, "Look, I can't keep doing this with you all day. This realtor knows everybody around here. She's found places for half our staff. Work with her. I've got to get back to the office. See you Monday." So he toured places with the realtor, and one of them stopped him cold. It wasn't in some block of studios. It was set a little apart from a cluster of shops, a 2-story building with a restaurant on the ground floor that only operated during the day, a lunch place. The second floor had just 2 units. He stepped into one, and it wasn't a studio at all. It was a proper apartment, maybe 600 square feet, a separate bedroom, a living room, a kitchen tucked off the side of it. Spacious, the kind of place that looks expensive. "How much is this one?" he asked, bracing himself. $3,000 down, $500 a month. He couldn't believe it. The studios he'd been looking at were going for $350. This was $150 more for all of that. He signed on the spot. He says he felt almost hypnotized by it. That's how much he loved it. He moved his things in, rested for 2 days, and started work on Monday. Now, I've spent a little time in a research lab myself, and I can tell you, the people are always lovely at the start, and the work is always brutal. There's no clock out time. That first day, 6 in the evening rolled around and nobody so much as reached for their coat. The new guy just sits there sweating, watching everyone, not knowing what to do. Greg leaned over and nudged him. "Go home, new guy, go while you can." The others laughed. "When they tell you to leave, leave, go while you can." So he went. 3 days of that. After 3 days, they stopped telling him to go home, and he settled into being the gopher, running other people's experiments, cleaning up data in spreadsheets, the dog work. He'd leave anywhere from 9 at night to 2 or 3 in the morning, drag himself home a wreck, and be back at the lab by 8:30. That first strange night, he was in the shower washing his hair. You know how it is when your eyes are shut and your imagination starts up. A pale hand reaching out of the dark behind you, that kind of thing. He was scaring himself a little, just for fun. And then the water pressure dropped, just sagged, weak. He thought, what was that? He finished up, came out, and heard it. A soft hiss coming from the kitchen. The sink faucet was running. He stood there. Did I leave that on? He turned it off. And then it bothered him. He'd walked in the door and gone straight to shower. There was no moment he could have turned that tap on. And here's the thing. Daniel's an engineer. Old faucets, the kind where the lever drops down to switch on. Those can flop open on their own over time, but this one lifted up to turn on. There was no way on earth for it to start itself. He stared at it, shrugged, told himself he must have done it without thinking, and had a beer and went to bed. The second night, he woke up before his alarm to a smell. You know that smell when somebody 2 floors down smokes on their balcony and it drifts up into your place? That, but concentrated, right under his nose. Now Daniel smoked, but nobody smokes in their sleep. He forced his eyes open, and he couldn't believe what he was looking at. There was a lit cigarette burning in the ashtray, burned down about 2/3. He hadn't lit it. He'd been asleep. He stubbed it out with shaking hands and thought, did someone come into my apartment while I was sleeping? There was no time to dwell on it. The alarm was 5 minutes out. He showered and went to work. He couldn't focus all day. At lunch, he called his mother. "Mom, is there anything you never told me? Do I sleepwalk?" she said. "What on earth are you talking about? You don't sleepwalk," he said. "Could I have early dementia or something?" And she laughed at him. "You've gotten big and you're still a baby. It's the new place. You're stressed and you don't even realize it. A company that's already working you to death, of course you are. And he figured, okay, it's the first time I've really lived alone, apart from the army. Maybe it's stress. For about a week, nothing, just the endless overtime. Then came the night at the lab. One of the senior researchers asked him to cover. I've got the machine set up. It'll run 3 cycles and stop. When the data comes out, clean it up to this point and head home. I've got an emergency at home. I'm sorry, I really need this. Daniel said sure. Covering, of course, just meant sitting there waiting for the machine to finish. By 9:30 people were trickling out, and by 12:30 he was alone. Everyone was gone. He sat by the equipment, scrolling his phone, dozing a little, thinking, this is not the working life I pictured. I must be crazy. And then he heard a beep. Let me explain the building. It was a research lab, so it had keycard security. You tap your badge, the door beeps, the lock clunks open, and the door swings. One way in, one way out. He heard it clear as anything. The beep, the clunk, the main door opening. He figured one of the others had come back, and he tried to look busy, leaning over the machine like his life depended on it. But 30 seconds went by, then a minute, and there were no footsteps. He looked down the corridor, nothing. He got up and went outside to the lot. His car was the only car there. I must have misheard, he told himself, and went back in. But now he was scared, plainly, simply scared. He sat there willing the cycle to finish so he could grab the file and run. And then it came again. The beep, the clunk, the door. Who's there? He called, and went out to look. Nobody. Now, from the main entrance, the lab fanned out into 5 rooms, 2 on the left and 3 on the right, and his little lab was on the right. He opened every single one. Lights on, look, no one, lights off, next door. Check the office too, nobody, anywhere. And he'd heard it twice, wide awake, dead clear, the second time especially, because by then he was strung tight as a wire. He yanked the data onto a USB stick, killed the lights, and drove home. And at home, in the shower, washing his hair, the water pressure dropped. You know that feeling when you're under the water and someone outside cranks on the kitchen tap? The hair stood up all over his body. He went rigid. His arm wouldn't move. He somehow rinsed off, didn't even towel down, took about 100 breaths to steady himself, and reached for the bathroom door. Before his head was even all the way out, he heard it. That soft hiss, the sink running again. He walked over, dripping, naked, and shut it off. And he stood there, the engineer in him grinding away, because there was no version of this where a faucet that lifts up to open lifts itself. It didn't even wobble. Water pressure couldn't do it. Was it timing? The apartment was small enough that from the kitchen he could see into the rooms, lights on, no one there. He dried up and he couldn't sleep. He ended up dozing, sitting upright against the wall. The alarm went off and he bolted for the door and stopped. The shoe rack, a little 3-tier plastic shoe rack he'd bought. Every drawer was pulled out, maybe an inch each, all of them, and he knew for a fact, he had never left them like that. He stood there and the thought finally landed. Is there someone else in here besides me? He went to work. On a smoke break, he tried Greg. Hey, does the security system ever glitch? Greg blinked at him. Daniel told him about the night, the door opening twice with no one there. Greg laughed in his face. It's one of 2 things. Either you dozed off, or the thing hiccuped. An engineering grad and that's all your brain can come up with? You're a coward, man. Still a coward, Daniel said. You try it then. It's terrifying. Greg shrugged. Maybe it's happened to me once or twice. Maybe it hasn't. Why would a grown man sweat that? And he walked off, grinning. Daniel realized that no matter who he told, he was just going to sound insane. So he tried something else. There's a feature called Wake on LAN. If you set up the machine right, you can power on a computer remotely over the network. Before work that morning, he'd configured his home PC and he'd set a remote control program to launch automatically the second it booted. So from the office, he woke his home computer up and took control of it. And he had a webcam at home, one of those old ones people used to leave running. He switched it on. It didn't pan around, but his bed was in frame. Nothing there, obviously. He sat watching it thinking, I've gone completely paranoid. I'm losing my mind. And then, you know those mystery videos where a faint shape just drifts across the frame like a soul moving? Something like that drifted across his bedroom in broad daylight. He sat up straight. He kept watching, and it was unmistakable. A hazy, smoky, blurred silhouette. The kind of thing you'd see in a cheap horror film, sliding through the room. He came apart. Come look at this, he was shouting, dragging co-workers over to his monitor. You have to see this. And of course, by the time they crowded around, there was nothing. Crazy man again. That night he flat refused to stay alone. He left with everyone, drove home, parked. His was the only car in the lot, and the whole building empty at that hour, and he could not make himself go up the stairs. He sat in the car for half an hour. Finally he chain-smoked 2 cigarettes, sang to himself like a soldier, and went up, threw the door open shouting on purpose, hit every light switch in the place. Nothing. He decided that was it. He'd switch apartments. But he still had to shower. So he showered with the bathroom door wide open, washed his hair with his eyes open and his head down. A full-blown coward now, and he'd be the first to tell you so. Nothing happened. Then he had an idea he was rather proud of. He set a heavy mug on top of the kitchen faucet lever, right where it would have to lift. If even water pressure can't push past this, he thought, and it still moves, then it's supernatural, and I'm gone. Very scientific, very clever. He went to bed. And in the night, he heard the one sound he was dreading, the sink, running. His eyes were shut, and his whole body locked up and started to shake. Why is the sink on? He had to look. He gathered everything he had, opened his eyes, turned on the light, walked to the kitchen, and the mug had been knocked aside, sitting off to the side, and the faucet was up and the water was pouring. He stood frozen for about 5 seconds, and then he ran out the door, down the stairs, into the night, in nothing but his underwear, barefoot, no phone, no cigarettes, standing in the dark, looking like an escaped lunatic. He had to force himself back up, force himself to shut off the tap, grab his clothes and his phone, and he slept in the car. He looked like death the next morning. He finally told Greg the truth, that the place Greg's realtor had found him was honestly somewhere he couldn't live because he was too frightened. He laid it all out, and Greg, to his credit, took it in and said, "If all that's true, yeah, that's terrifying, but what are you going to do? You can't just not live somewhere. There's a lot of time left on that lease, and you can't break it over a ghost. Call the realtor." So he did, and the realtor told him what realtors tell you. You can only leave once a replacement tenant is found, and the problem was, even the unit next door, Daniel, was in 201, the empty one was 202, even that one hadn't rented. He offered to throw in extra money. That evening, off work, nowhere to be, he drove home on autopilot and once again couldn't get out of the car. His hair was greasy, he was desperate to wash and lie down in a real bed, and he simply could not go inside, so he started calling friends, anything to keep the fear off. Small talk, a few guys. One of them, I'll call him Eric, a friend he leaned on, asked, "Why aren't you home? Are you sitting in your car?" And Daniel told him everything, the strange things, why he couldn't go in, how he was sitting in the dark working up the nerve to make phone calls. You'd have to live it to understand. It's terrifying, Eric said. Then you shouldn't go in. Why are you even arguing with yourself? Go check into a motel. Sleep. Get your head straight. Daniel said, yeah, I need to sleep. He got out to smoke, still on the phone. And while he was smoking, something snagged the corner of his eye. He looked up. Unit 202, the empty one, which always had its curtains pulled all the way shut. One of those curtains had moved, fluttered. The window looked closed. Did someone move in next door? Eric said, you're too wound up. You're seeing things now. Get to the motel. 2 nights in a motel. Then he worked up the courage to go back. And that night, nothing. He slept clean through. He woke at 6, when he normally got up at 7:30. Early and oddly rested, maybe because he'd slept so tense. He figured he'd wash up and get to work early, get out of that place as fast as he could. And then, a clunk. Next door's door, closing. He hurried to peek out, and there was a middle-aged woman walking off down the hall. Hello, did you move in? She looked back at him. No, I manage this building. He'd never once seen her. Is someone moving in next door then? No, just came to tidy up, have a look. Did I wake you? No, he said. I was just glad to see somebody. She left, and he went to work. But it gnawed at him. There couldn't be anyone next door, and yet he'd seen that curtain move. He told Eric, and Eric said, isn't it supposed to be empty? Go try the door. What have you got to lose? So Daniel went over, still on the phone, and tried 202, locked. Forget it, Eric said. Get your head right. He went back into his own place and kept talking, just to fill the silence. And then, you know how a fist on a concrete wall makes that deep thud, a sound that resonates? The building was empty at that hour, absolutely empty, and he heard a fist strike the wall, a low resonant boom, and he felt the vibration of it come through. Eric, he said, I'm losing it. Something just hit the wall. Is that a sound that just happens on its own? Eric said. Maybe you misheard. Daniel said, I'm leaving, put his shoes on, and went out the door. He could not be in that apartment another minute. Getting into his car, he looked up, and one of 202's curtains was pulled aside. So the manager came and went, he thought. Though from the ground you can't actually see up into a second-floor window anyway. No lights, no one. I'm scared, he told Eric. I want a different place, but I don't have money for another deposit. What am I supposed to do? And Eric said, there's someone in that unit next door. You're sure you heard the sound? I'm sure. Then hang on. This Saturday I'm coming to you. Saturday, Eric showed up. And not alone. He brought an older guy he knew, and he came in a very strange vehicle. Eric's older brother did site and construction work, and he drove a boom lift truck, a cherry picker, the kind they used to work up on power lines. Renting one of those costs a fortune, but it was his brother's, so there it was. Is next door locked? Yeah. The 2 brothers poked all around Daniel's place, having the time of their lives, like they were on some kind of mystery expedition. Nothing inside his unit. Let's open next door. Locked. Bring the truck around. The brothers set it up below and ran the boom up the outside of the building. Eric rode it up to the second floor, to where 202's curtain hung slightly parted, and looked in. Oh my God, he said. Jackpot. Daniel on the ground called up. What is it? Come up, come up. They lowered the platform. Daniel, get on. You coming? You'd put us over the weight limit. Get off. It ran on a remote, so Daniel and the brother rode up together. Rising, rising. The window came level with his eyes, and he could see right in. You know how at a fortune teller's there's a shrine set up behind them? An altar like that, and it was daylight, sun pouring in so he could see clearly, the ceiling, the floor, every wall, all of it painted red, solid red. And it hit him. The unit next door wasn't just empty, it had to be empty. He took a few photos. He called the landlady, a woman. "I'm Daniel, in 201. What is this, next door?" She brushed him off. "Don't worry about it." He told her about the strange things, that he was frightened out of his mind. And she said, "Don't be absurd. That's my own religious belief. I set that unit up the way I wanted it. Is that supposed to be grounds for something? Don't come at me with ghost nonsense. When a tenant's found, you can move out." And what could he say? How do you prove to anyone that you can't live somewhere because of a ghost? He just asked her to please find a tenant fast. Eric and his brother marveled at the whole thing. Eric stayed the night, and with other people around, nothing happened, not a single strange thing. Then he left. Back at work, the lab director gave Daniel an order. "You can handle a few tasks now. During the day, if you're tired, nap in your car, I don't care. But everyone's buried in the research project right now, so I need you to be the last one out. Do the final equipment check at the end of the night before you leave. I'll let you hide and sleep during the day. Push your start time back if you need it." Which meant, of course, everyone leaves, you stay alone. And what was he going to say? "I'm scared of the dark? A grown man?" "Understood," he said, and stayed. I'll keep this part short, because it's more of the same, and it's enough to tell you. Alone at night, he heard footsteps. He heard a faint, small throat clearing, a little cough, and it wasn't the random ticking of a building settling. It was clearly a person, and there was a lot of it, 2 nights of it, and he was done. He went to the director. "I honestly cannot do the nights. I'm sorry, I can't." And the director gave him this look of pure disbelief, and something about that look made Daniel's blood boil. "I came all this way. I'm getting it at home and at work both. Why should I take this? I can't do the nights," he said again. And the director, clipped and cold, said, "Then don't. Go help with something else." Out front, smoking, he made up his mind. "This place is not for me. Quit. They say the company's going public in 5 or 6 years. What's that to me? Just walk away." He called his mother. "Mom, I know I've barely started, but I'm quitting." She asked why, and he couldn't even begin to explain. "It's just a bad fit, Mom. Just trust me on this." And she said, "All right. I'll smooth it over with your father. Don't worry. Come home." He told the director he was resigning. "It's not the work. I just don't belong here. I know how it sounds. Just give me this one thing." And the director, still looking at him like he'd lost his mind, said, "Daniel, there is a schedule. Everyone planned around you being here. I told you the other day. The project is at its final stage. Stay 2 more weeks. Just support us 2 more weeks." And the kid, the soft new graduate, caved, understood. So began 2 weeks of waiting, and he was afraid of everything now. He started searching online, and where he ended up was shaman houses. He went to about 3 of them. The first ones, nothing much, but at the second, the shaman listened to his whole story. And then she said, "Hold on," and pulled out her phone, something a shaman almost never does in the middle of a reading. She texted somebody, got replies, stepped outside to make a call, came back in and said, "Wait here, someone's coming." And someone did. A woman walked in, looked Daniel over, and with this sharp, fierce energy started striking him on the back with the flat of her palm, muttering all the while, "It's stuck on you," she said. "Stuck hard." "What's stuck?" Daniel asked. "Something that should never attach to a person is attached to you. That's why you're suffering." Inside, honestly, he almost laughed. He's a Buddhist, and the whole thing scared him a little, but also felt like theater. So what do I do? Nothing exactly. Come to this place in 4 days. She gave him an address. He said he didn't have any money. No money needed. Just come. I'll consider it saving a life. That got his attention, so he asked her seriously now, "What is attached to me?" And she said, "A woman who's determined to take you with her. Trust me. Come in 4 days." She wrote out a talisman. "Keep this on you. You'll be all right. You won't see things." He took it. And whether it was real or just his own mind, with that talisman in his pocket, he slept better. So on the 3rd day of holiday, he went hiking. A low hill he passed all the time. About 15 minutes up, he came across a tiny hermitage, really small. And being Buddhist and restless, he went in. There was a little main hall. He put $10 in the donation box and bowed a few times. "Buddha, I'm so tired. Please help me." And then he lost consciousness, mid-bow. That's the only way he can describe it. One moment he was bowing, and the next, someone was shaking him awake. He'd been asleep on the floor of the main hall. A monk from the hermitage was shaking him by the shoulder. "Sir, sir." Daniel came to, and outside it was already dark. He'd slept the whole day away. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to fall asleep in here." The monk just looked at him. "Why were you sleeping in here? You look exhausted." Daniel apologized, said he'd head down right away, didn't even know when he'd dropped off, and the monk said, "Come, have some tea first, then go." He led him to a tiny single room, poured tea, and they talked. The monk asked why he'd been praying so hard, and Daniel told him all of it. The strange things, his restless mind, that he didn't even know anymore if he was just a coward. And the monk said, "Don't go down the mountain right now." "What? If you go down, then tomorrow you'll go where that fortune teller told you to go, won't you? Stay here." Daniel said he had things to do. The monk shook his head. "Stay a little longer." And then he spoke very plainly. After all his years up in the mountains, he said, he could see things. "I see that you're in danger. Something that should never be on a person is swallowing you whole. I'm not a shaman, understand me, I'm not that. But you live up here long enough, you see ghosts. And I'm telling you, if you go down this mountain, you die. Just know that. Don't go down. Why would I send you down when I can see plain as day how you'll die?" Daniel said, "What is the problem exactly? Tell me." And the monk said, "I need to check something first." He took Daniel back to the main hall, sat him down on the big prayer cushions, and said, "Sleep here," and then, very firmly, "Until I open this door and come in and bring you out myself. Do not leave. Promise me. Not until I open this door and come in for you. Can you give me that?" Daniel said yes. The monk set out a pail of water, some dried rice, even a chamber pot. He closed the door and said, "Let's trust in fate," and Daniel listened to his footsteps fade away down the path. He sat there wondering how on earth his life had come to this. Whatever, he thought, even if you wring the rooster's neck, the dawn still comes. He'd just sit out the night. The monk would be back by morning, surely. An hour, 2. He'd slept all day, so he wasn't tired. He scrolled his phone. He's Buddhist, comfortable enough in a temple, so he called a couple of friends and chatted quietly, waiting. And then, from outside the door, came a voice. "Sir, it's all done now. Come out." It sounded like the monk. Daniel got up, took hold of the door handle, and stopped. The monk's words came back to him. "Not until I open this door and come in for you." He stood frozen, his hand on the handle. "Monk," he said. The voice outside said, "Come out. I'll explain everything. Come out." He let go of the handle. "Then come in, monk. Come in." And the voice said, "Sir, it's the middle of the night and I'm so tired. Please, just come out." Daniel started to wonder if he was dreaming. Is this a lucid dream? Do I think such frightening thoughts that I'm dreaming this whole thing? He slapped himself across the face, hard. If it's a dream, wake up. It hurt. It wasn't a dream. The voice came again. "What are you doing in there? Time is short. Come out now." And Daniel said, "I'm not coming out until you open this door and come in. I can't hear a single thing you say. That's how it's going to be, monk." And he turned his back to the door and sat down. And from behind him the voice kept on. "You have to come out now to live. Come out. I'm holding it. I have to put it on you. Hurry, it's urgent." It didn't stop, not for a breath. It began to scream, out there in the dark, pleading, "You have to come out. You want to live, don't you? Why are you doing this to yourself?" And Daniel says if he'd been in his right mind, he never could have done what he did next. He started slamming his head into one of the main hole's wooden pillars. He doesn't know why. He just wanted to knock himself out, pass out, anything, just make it stop. He smashed his head into that pillar again and again and again. When he came to, the main hall door was open, and the monk was shaking him. "Sir," Daniel opened his eyes, saw the door standing open, saw the monk inside. Is it really you?" "It's me," the monk said. "Look at your head. You fought a brutal fight." And Daniel broke down crying, "Please, please save me." The monk gathered him up and sat with him and said, "Just go home, go back to your hometown. Don't worry about your things. Don't worry about the company. Don't worry about any of it. Just go." But Daniel had to know. There was no need to know it all, the monk told him. But Daniel felt the not knowing would eat him alive. "Monk, I have to know. Otherwise I'll come back here just to find out. I have to. I'm the one this happened to." So the monk told him. That plot of land where his apartment stood, did he know what it had been? He didn't. It was where a shaman had once kept her shrine, and it was where that shaman had taken her own life. They'd torn it down and put up the 2-story building. And here's the bitter part. That whole area, all those shops and streets, it had been wetland farmland once, watercress fields, before the developers came in and redrew it. And the shaman had refused to leave. "I cannot leave this land," she said. She kept her shrine, dug in, held out to the very end, and one day she was found hanging there. To this day, no one knows whether she did it herself or whether someone helped her along. Either way, she was gone, and the building rose up on her spot. And that altar in 202, the red room, that had been put there to bind the dead shaman's spirit, to trap her in that unit. Now the monk wasn't some intelligence agent. He couldn't dig out the whole of it, but through another lay practitioner he'd learned more. Remember that offhand thing the company kept saying, that they'd go public in 5 or 6 years? The man who owned that company didn't need a new employee. He needed a human offering, a sacrifice, and the spirit he meant to feed it to was that shaman, the one who died bitter and full of grievance. And the research lab, 3 minutes from the factory, wasn't just a convenient piece of land either. This was a man going public, and he'd had every site, every detail, chosen according to folk belief. What he was missing was a person. But why a college student? Because a student, someone studying hard, head down, untouched, was in the old way of thinking, a scholar, a clean, studious, unspoiled young scholar. That's what the offering called for. A current college student counted as exactly that. So the man had people quietly search for one, and Daniel walked right into it. And if Daniel had died, nothing would have looked the least bit strange. A death by spiritual means. What evidence is there? If you let yourself believe such a thing can really be done, it is a cold, cold thought. And the shaman who'd struck his back and called him to that address in 4 days? The monk explained that she'd looked at the depth of the grudge in that spirit clinging to Daniel, and she'd gotten greedy. She wanted it for herself, so she too had set her sights on him. The monk said it flatly. If Daniel had gone to that shaman or stayed at that company 2 more weeks, either road ended the same way. He'd have said his goodbyes. That was what the monk had felt the moment he saw him. Know that it's by the Buddha's mercy that you still have your life. And then Daniel asked the obvious thing. So, is it gone now? The ghost? And the monk shook his head slowly. It was deep. Things like that don't come off easily. Daniel went pale. Then what do I do? And the monk asked, can you live as a monk for a month? Temple life. Daniel said he could. Then don't stay here at the hermitage. I'll make a call. Go to a temple, somewhere in a far corner, for a month. So he went. A temple deep in a mountain valley, no name, not even on the maps. They'd had word he was coming. They shaved his head. Now shaving the head means ordination, leaving the world behind, and Daniel had no intention of becoming a monk, Buddhist or not. But he did exactly as he was told. He kept his mouth shut. He ate no meat. He gave them his head. He rose before dawn on the monk's schedule, every day for a month. For a month he was, to anyone's eyes, a monk. And after the month at that temple told him to go back to the hermitage. And this is the part that still amazes him. His first moment arriving at that little temple, he'd said, I was sent from the hermitage, and the monk had said, come in. And at the end of the month, it's been a month, go back. 2 sentences. The entire month, 2 sentences. A vow of silence, essentially. He talked to walls a lot. And then back down to the hermitage. The hermitage monk told him he'd done well, and to go and live his life. How did it come off? Daniel asked. Did the Buddha help me? And the monk told him, more or less, this. An evil spirit cannot cling to a person whose mind is right. Shaving your head. To that ghost, it looked like you were ordaining, renouncing the world. To anyone's eyes, you lived as a monk. And a monk is a disciple of the Buddha, studying his teaching. And a low, grasping spirit cannot stay fastened to that. And living that life, your own heart was washed clean. Going forward, remember, it's the mind that matters. Not talismans, not rituals, not prayers. In the end, it is your own mind, so keep polishing it. A clean mind gives evil nothing to take hold of. And then kindly the monk gave him a phone number so he could collect his belongings. It turned out one of the hermitage's lay practitioners ran one of those moving and storage businesses, and the man had quietly gone and cleared out Daniel's whole apartment and kept his things in storage. No charge, he'd just done it. So with the monk's help, Daniel went home, and he lives well to this day. What he came away with is this, that there is something to the spiritual world, something real that you can't put into words, and that the moment a living person's greed sinks its hooks into that something, it becomes truly, truly terrifying. And that's really the thing, isn't it? Daniel will tell you he believes now that there's something out there beyond explaining, but that's not the part that kept him up afterward. The faucet, the cigarette, the shape drifting across his webcam, that was only ever a trapped, grieving ghost doing what such a ghost does. The part that still gets him is the other thing, that a living man, a respectable man with a company and a plan to ring the bell and take it public, had looked at a worn-out kid fresh out of school and seen nothing but an offering, had gone to all that trouble, the land, the altar, the lab, the careful hunt for the right pure young scholar, just to feed him to something in a red room. The ghost was only ever the knife. The man was the hand that held it. And that, he says, is the thing that doesn't wash off in a month at any temple.